Welcome, Sarah, to the Animas channel. We're so excited to have you here today. And yeah, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Good, good. We can't wait to hear about your story. But if it's okay, if you can introduce yourself and share us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, sure. I'm Sarah Longfield and I am based in Glasgow in Scotland, although my accent suggests I haven't always been here. I've been here 25 years though, but originally I'm from near London, a lovely place called Slough, but we won't go into that. So I now run my own business. I trained with Animas in 2020. Our first module was the end of February 2020, which was in person. And then obviously by the time we got to the end of March 2020, it wasn't in person. And full days on Zoom was, when you're not used to it, was quite something. At the time, my background's in theatre, in participatory community arts practice. And so I saw the coaching as sort of a potential side project, really. I knew it was something that I used quite a lot. A kind of coaching techniques I used quite a lot in the work that I was doing. I ran a couple of social enterprises, all in the arts, and my freelance practice. And then COVID hit, and I was like, this is nuts that I have two companies and a freelance set of books to do. I felt like I gave more money to an accountant that year than I did to myself. And so I just escalated the coaching business and found it really worked and really suited me. I'm a single mum and sort of running the household and just communicating with people on Zoom was brilliant for me. I wasn't dashing about the country, and I just really, really love coaching as well. So I now coach creative entrepreneurs, artists, people with a creative soul. So not exclusively people who work in the creative sector, but most do. Most run their own business in some way, or I work with people who have a service-led business, who are creative and just want support that is a bit different to perhaps a more executive coaching, corporate kind of approach.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you were already coaching before, because I'm curious about your story about going into training. When did you decide, okay, training is the next step?
Yeah, I felt like one of my social enterprises was around supported creative learning projects for children and young people. And it was about getting accreditation so that the young people would get, certification qualifications at the end of it. So I provided a lot of one-to-one support to the people working with groups. And it was definitely mentoring, but at points I knew it was like veering into a less directive kind of coaching thing that I was doing. And prior to that, actually, I used to be the artistic director of a young people's theatre. And we worked in some of the most disadvantaged parts of Glasgow, supporting young people to give them a voice through theatre. But the crossovers are really similar, how you use your skills, you ask the right questions, you set the right tasks as in the theatre setting to allow people to really be themselves, and to have confidence in what they're doing. That it was all there, all the ingredients were there. So I really wanted to properly train in either coaching or mentoring. I wasn't sure which, and that's when I started to sort of look about. And ironically, I really wanted to do some training in person because I love that kind of cohort thing. And Animas at the time was running in Edinburgh. It's just down the road from me in Glasgow. So yeah, that's sort of what part of the reason I was drawn to Animas, and then it all went online, which is fine because then we got to connect with people, much in a much broader geographical sense. But yeah, at the time it didn't feel like online was the place to be. I was wrong.
Yeah, no, completely. I can't believe it's been 5 years since then.
I
We've
know.
come so far. So
Well, nearly 6, right? Nearly 6 years.
oh my goodness, yes, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, it's 6 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did you find Animas? I mean, what drew you to the transformative coaching approach?
I think it was the introduction days that they did. They were doing one in Edinburgh, and my friend had sent it to me. She'd spotted it on a Facebook ad, I think. And so yeah, came along to that. Wasn't sure. Had a look at other places. But yeah, just loved the fact that it was going to be in Edinburgh. It was a big ask, with two little kids, to do a whole weekend out, once a month was a big ask. But I'd sort of spoken to people and got support to do it. So yeah. Yeah, I didn't dive too much into the whole coaching thing. I just wanted, and obviously the language of Animas was speaking the right thing to me. But yeah, when I came on the course and there were people who read all the books and stuff, I was like, oh, I was a total newbie to coaching theory and even to I didn't really read a lot of self-help kind of personal development books either. So it was a whole eye-opening thing, which was very useful to go on a bit of a self-help personal development sort of journey in 2020. Very useful, I think, because there was a lot of personal growth for me at that point as well, which was rewarding.
Absolutely. So going into the training, were there standouts? Was it what you expected? What was your experience?
Well, I didn't have expectations, so because I was quite under-researched. So I just found it really fascinating. I found it hard, especially like I said, at the time we weren't used to being online, 9 to 5, 2 days, for 2 days straight. That was a lot. At a time of collective trauma, global trauma, that was a lot. But I loved the people on the course with me. We formed a lovely group, and I'm still in touch with some, still collaborate with some. And for me, I think the modules are different now, but definitely all the stuff around narrative coaching. I think my theatre background really kind of, I lit up with that bit, because it's a very sort of creative approach where you're looking at the stories that people are telling themselves about who they are and how they fit in the world, and how some of those stories can over time get stuck and have quite a negative impact. I loved learning about that, and sort of metaphor and how we use language, clean language. I think my favorite exercise I learned, or that I still use regularly, would be parts work. And again, that leans into a creative sense, that you've got this cast of characters on your stage or on your bus or wherever you want them to. They're always somewhere. When I'm working with people, there's this collection of folk who are all parts of you, who are all valid and useful in some way, but the shouty ones can get a bit out of control if you don't make proper job descriptions for them or contract properly and let them know when they're useful and when they're not useful. And that I find so handy as a tool to use with people. And I know, like I had one client who came to me when we were working on their business, but the parts work unlocked some stuff and they gave up smoking as a result. It's this kind of unintended benefits, I suppose. Yeah, that's probably my favorite. I also really like future pacing, that idea of envisioning what the future might hold when things work out, when we follow a certain path, and then stepping back in time to work out what that path might look like and how we know we're on the right track. I think, that's been quite transformative for some of my clients when we've done that exercise as well.
Absolutely. So I can hear your story and your everything that you've experienced in theatre and in creative art. It's so much in your work. I'm actually wondering if you've ever thought of a different niche, or you were quite sure at the then that this is the
No, not at all, because creatives don't have a lot of money. So no, this was not my intended niche at all. I thought, I know, I'll coach people in the corporate world, and then I'll carry on doing my arts projects. I could see the coaching kind of evolving as a side thing, really. which was maybe a little naive and a little bit wishful thinking, because, you know, when I have worked in corporate, I get the comments, oh, you're just the sort of pirate we need, you know, we're just the sort of person. But the gatekeepers, the people who choose who goes on their coaching panels, do not like me or my website. You know, there's too much whimsy and uncertainty in what I'm selling, I suppose, but then when creative people look at my website and can see I'm doing all sorts of different things, then, you know, and I did get advice from a business mentor that I should have separate websites for all my different sort of elements to my work. And I was like, I'd end up with like 10 websites. No, thank you. You know, the whole point of, you know, shutting the two social enterprises and bringing it all under one roof is to simplify. The fact that it might look confusing to some, I'm okay with now, because the right people find me. And it is those creative sorts who are multi-potentialite, you know, Renaissance people who are curious about lots of things, want to do lots of things. And I suppose that's where my specialism is. You know, you might have 40,000 ideas. I can help you work out which ideas are going to happen and how, you know, and which ones we need to park and how might you park them and save them so they don't get lost. But, you know, we can kind of make sense of it all, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. There's an authenticity and confidence in the integration. That's how it sounds to me. Really embracing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because, well, I suppose I flew the doors wide, through the doors wide, not flew them. When I was, you know, training and I was getting practice clients. And obviously the people who came to me were the people who went, oh, you're a creative, you get it. You know, it was people from the creative sector or people who, yeah, who were kind of enthused. You know, I'm a very enthusiastic person. So I think there is a usefulness there in, you know, some clients stay with me for a long time because I'm a good sort of tonic as well as a challenge, you know, as well as the challenging cheerleader. I can support people in that way. And I suppose there's a quirkiness that appeals to the lovely people I work with that doesn't appeal to everyone. But yeah, I am confident in who I am, who I work with. Because yeah, 6 years down the line, and it hasn't always been easy. It's been quite penniless at points, but you know, 6 years down the line, I do have a full roster of clients and I do other things as well. I run courses and group, not group coaching as such, but more kind of facilitated group experiences that are online live as well. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. What helped you, really solidify that this is the way that you want to work and this is the people that are attracted to me?
What helped me? I think, yeah, I did quite a bit of work on dealing with uncertainty. I've always been either freelance or running small organizations. So, you know, I mentioned being a pirate earlier, you know, being a good pirate. I'm very used to that. I'm not used to working in big organizations. I'm not used to having the security of a regular paycheck. So I think that was helpful at the beginning as well, because it always pans out. So that there's some optimisms, some educated optimism, I'd say. But yeah, just having the grit as well to just stick with it, because the more I lent into it, the more I was just being unadulterated Sarah in my business, the better my business does. And that is just great.
Yeah. So belief, really, strong belief in it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do have belief because I suppose I've seen the transformation that my clients have. And you know, right at the very beginning, that very first coaching training session we had with Emma Dempsey, you know, she was talking about it was conscious competence, unconscious competence, and you start off with conscious incompetence, and you know, and you kind of move through, and you get to a place of unconscious competence. And I can feel that sometimes, I will come off a coaching call and go, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm good at what I do. But that is about stripping back the layers, not worrying about using a particular model or using certain techniques in certain ways. In fact, I've kind of come a step further away from that. How I offer the coaching is on a subscription model. So people sign up and they have at least one session a month. Most only do have the one, and that's enough for busy creative people. But I've got an online library. It's called the Library of Useful Things, which has various videos of me talking through different coaching techniques or approaches, and some, creative business ways to plan your business, strategize and things. So there's this kind of whole heap of resource there that you get when you're part of my subscription. And that just saves so much time. So it really peels back the layers as well. So when I'm coaching, I don't have to worry about, would this particular thing work with this person? Like parts work, for example, I could say in a session, have you ever done anything like this? Like parts work or internal family systems. And if they seem keen and they're new to it, I'll send them to the video first, and then they can bring it into the session if they want to, or they can do a bit of self-coaching, because I'll have a worksheet with some different prompts on it. And I feel that delivers better value for people, but it also avoids that, when you're a newbie and you're trying stuff out, you can suggest something that just doesn't suit a client. And I did that once. I suggested a visualization thing, and a lot of my clients are neurospicy in some way, and their particular sort of autism, neurodiversity did not suit visualization at all. And they found it really hard, and we never really got back from that. And so I thought, right, now I'm not doing that again. I'll put the power in my clients' hands, because that's really powerful. They also choose how long they work with me as well. And that feels so powerful, because I found, especially my clients who are ADHD diagnosed or presenting, weren't booking the final session in a block because they hadn't finished, they weren't ready to finish. And so they were losing a fifth, a sixth of their investment. And also that, then there's guilt and shame around not completing something. And I was like, I don't want to add to this. Creative neurodivergent people have enough feelings of, I haven't completed something. I felt like I was adding to it rather than helping that problem. So creating the subscription model means you choose, every month you get your free session. If you don't book it, and very few people don't book in, it just keeps that going. And then you choose when you stop. And it's usually financial, the reason people stop. But sometimes, and I love this, is when they're like, oh, I think I've got to where I needed to be right now. And it's like, amazing. Come back to me if you need to go somewhere else, and that feels such a sense of, and that might be in 3 sessions, that might be in a year. I've just finished up with a client that we've worked together consistently every month for 2 years, but we also, previously I had the 5-session block thing. And so probably about 3 years we've worked together. And they've just reached a point in their life where they're like, okay, I don't need you anymore. I'm like, this is amazing. This is so good. This is lovely. Off you go. Fly.
Oh, this is so great to hear. I actually felt my body relax when you said that, because this is almost such a counter to what the beginning expectations that we have, that this is how a package should look like. This is how a coaching journey should look like.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't just have to be one way. And your approach is so client-led, which is one of the main principles. And it's wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about your experimentation. You mentioned, okay, earlier on you had a 5-session package. Most people ask that question, what does it look like? I mean, could you, is there something to share like from you around your process of figuring that out? The subscription model now.
Yeah, well, I suppose the main thing was that those clients who weren't booking, because I had 5 sessions, and the reason I did 5 is because I wanted there to be a middle, whereas 6 didn't fit
I
It's the story,
understand.
it's the story arc of it. And so 5 felt right. And, on the whole, it worked for a lot of people. And some clients would book repeat blocks and some would just do the 5. And I think in a business sense, I think some who just did the 5 would have stayed longer if I had a different structure. But yeah, it was that small handful who weren't booking. And when I did manage, a lot of them would then go quiet on me, but a couple of them I did speak to, and they're like, oh, I just felt like I hadn't achieved, I hadn't finished, I hadn't got to where I wanted. I felt a bit crap about it. And you're like, oh gosh, that's when you need coaching the most, is when you feel a bit rubbish about stuff. So yeah, those were the ones that I was like, I need to change this up. And so yeah, it felt like a bit of a jump, because subscription kind of feels like, you're tying you into like a gym membership and you have to have 30 days to cancel and all of that. So I just make it really clear and everything whenever I talk to a potential client that this is not tying you in. If you cancel that day, that's you cancelled. And the only time that would be a problem is if they cancel on the day they signed up, their subscription day. And I was like, and in which case I'll just refund you if that's when you want to stop. And it works really well, actually. I did offer a kind of half-hour wrap-up session.
Mm.
And then I found a lot of people weren't using that. And the only ones who were using it were the cheeky ones. And you always get them. And you just got to take this with good grace, who might sign up for like 1 month, have, the half-hour chat with me at the beginning for free, the one session. And then they want that half hour at the end. They're going to go through every resource that I've got in the library, the cheeky ones. And they usually do it when I'm offering a special offer and there's a discount or something on. But, fair enough, there's nothing to say you can't do that. So I did take the half hour off, because I was like, that's only being taken up by cheeky people. And of course, if I'm working with a client for a long time, I'll probably, wrap up with them in a way that feels right. And then I offer, so my coaching to some in the coaching world is very cheap, but to the creative sector, it's quite expensive. So it's £99, British pounds for the month, and you get your one session and the access to the library. You can also book additional sessions for 60 quid. So I'm offering quite low prices. And I think that's a big thing about pricing as well that might be useful to people watching. I charge what I'm happy to pay. For me, working in the arts, I know sort of where the income level is. I know how hard it is to make that decision to invest in yourself. Naturally, creatives are people who give a lot and don't always, invest in themselves. So yeah, I offer all of that. And so some do like 2 sessions a month, or if there's something particular coming up, there's an interview coming up or a pitch, or they're working on their website or something that, there's got a specific project, they'll book in an extra session for that. But most of the time that once a month is enough to kind of keep people on track and get them working towards, a clearer plan and stopping themselves getting in their own way. That's essentially what I do. Help them to, not stop. I don't do that.
Absolutely. I think this is an amazing opportunity, actually, for coaches who are in the creative space. If you were to, give Sarah beforehand some advice going through this as a creative, what comes up for you?
What comes up? I suppose you can use all of your creative skills, like all my theatre practice can be used in coaching. In fact, I created a course, and now it's like 18 months old, that I created, and I haven't brought it out into the world. And it was all about how theatre skills, and applied theatre in particular, where you work with groups, where the theatre is the kind of medium to support people to grow and to share their story and things. That world and all the techniques of that and coaching are so connected. And so I created a whole course on these theatre skills for coaches. Have I brought it out into the world? Not yet, but that's part of my 42,000 ideas. It will make it into the world at some point. But yeah, I think it's about that. It's about that you've got all this expertise that is really transferable to coaching. Coaching doesn't need to be something dry and uncreative. It is a very creative process. And I think, I'd be so heartened. Me in 2019 would be so heartened when I was looking around, and I think I finally hit the buy button on the 2nd of January 2020. If I could whisper in my ear then and go, you get to be more yourself than you've ever been. And all of you, your quirkiness and your creativity will actually gain you more clients. I'd be like, right, I should have signed up to this years ago.
But was it quick after qualification, or was it actually a gradual process? Yeah.
Well, I had an interesting situation where all my arts work, fell off a cliff. By April 2020, I had no work. And this was before the self-employed support in the UK came in. I had no way to make money. So I'd done 3 of the modules out of the 5 when I launched my website.
Mm.
And so I just started with it. I think, I started end of February. I qualified in July. And I got my ICF ACC accreditation in the January, because I was like, it was super speedy.
That's
because,
quick.
well, I needed to make money. I'm the single earner in this household. I had 2 kids to support. Sometimes that kind of situation makes you do it. And I made so many mistakes, as you do. I still make mistakes, but you learn as you grow. And I learn by doing. So I just have to throw myself into it. Be imperfect, beautifully imperfect, and just go for it. But I appreciate my situation might not, be replicable across the board. But it is possible, I suppose. By 2021 was one of my most buoyant years. I have got back to that and beyond now, but because there were so many people on furlough, there was so much COVID recovery money, I didn't realize just quite how good life was in 2021. And I was so busy. And I thought, oh, well, this is going. And then it dipped, sort of 23 was a real dip. Because, I am operating in a world that is getting increasingly tight on funding. So, and artists are getting less and less opportunities. But I'm like, if I can be this successful now, imagine what I'll be like in boom time. I'll be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And how about with creatives? What can they look out for? Maybe the challenges that so say for what I'm hearing in my head at the moment is like, what if you feel pressure, or maybe you feel like I don't think I can finish this, but I have to push through, because when you mentioned with subscription models, sometimes people struggle with that final push. Are there challenges like that you went through?
You mean if creatives are signing up to do the diploma?
Yeah, what are the normal pitfalls or challenges that maybe they'd go through?
Yeah, I think self-doubt is a huge one. Being a beginner again is really icky. Nobody likes being a beginner. You can be kind of like bushy-tailed and bright-eyed at the beginning, but then it's like, oh, now I need to do the work. But I think it is about finding the creativity within it. And also, I know so many people who have trained through Animas and use it in such a variety of different ways. And I think that's worth it. It's worth just getting the diploma. You don't have to go on the kind of rocket that I did, because you might have other forms of income at that point. But there's lots of approaches, but I think just getting that diploma means you can use, that's it for life. You've got that you can refer back to your notes, and it can, I think having coaching conversations within organizations, like if you're a leader in any way in an organization, or you're going in as sort of artist, freelance consultant or whatever to organizations, having those coaching techniques is super useful. They're also really useful when you're running workshops, you're just facilitating, even the most sort of creative of a workshop, you know, having that sense of presence of, you know, everyone in the room being creative, resourceful and whole, because a lot of the time you are trying to support people to be creative in that sort of setting and to feel comfortable and confident in using their imaginations. And a lot of people are terrified of them. So having some coaching techniques is so useful. But yeah, I'd say if you've made that investment, you make sure that you have completed and don't waste your money. I would get very cross. And I do get, you know, this is where I go slightly off the ICF script, perhaps, because I do get a little bit hard on people who have invested in something.
Yeah.
And then they're like dragging their heels. I'm like, no, this needs to happen. This needs to happen now. Sorry, I was tapping there. Yeah. Yeah, because don't waste it. You know, it's expensive. If you're a creative, you're probably not rolling in money.
Yeah.
And it is expensive. So make the most of it.
A bit of pressure, a bit of urgency
Yes.
helps.
Yeah. And just, you know, that means you do have to put yourself out there. To find clients is really hard. You know, it was easier perhaps in 2020 because there was a lot of people sitting at home not doing much. So it was easier to perhaps find people to practice on. Now, it might be harder to convince people, but lean into your networks, you know, that everyone can benefit from coaching. You know, 8 billion people in the world could do with a coach. Not everyone needs therapy, but everyone could benefit from having a coach. So leaning into that, and yeah, and that's something actually, like before I started this business, I wasn't on social media. Like my face wasn't on social media at all. I kind of did bits for my social enterprises, but kind of very ineffectually. There was about 5 selfies of me in existence. I didn't like my photo being taken. I felt very underconfident about how I looked on video, which is ironic because I've got a drama degree. So I quite like being on stage, but the idea of being captured on video, going to a wider audience, I didn't like at all. And I just got over it. You know, I just had to give myself a really good talking to and went, you need to get over this because you are your business now. If you're not there, visible, if you're not plastered all over your website and saying hello, then your business is going to flop. So I did get quite hard on myself. And also I've got a hat on because it's February, but you know, I've got alopecia, and this alopecia escalated in 2023, at the beginning of 23. That wasn't due to the downturn. That was economic factors. But it was quite handy that I'd already kind of given myself that talking to and done the mindset work on being able to enjoy seeing myself on video and be okay with photos. It's not like I think I'm wonderful, but I'm just going, oh, that's me. Oh, that was a good one. Oh, I said some good stuff there. You know, getting to that place is possible for anybody to get to that place. It's not like you're born with it. So it just requires a bit of determination, a bit of grit. And so when this happened, I was already in that place. So I was like, right, I wanted to swear there, I won't swear, you know, stuff it. I'm just going to keep doing this. And interestingly, this has actually helped the business because I have a visible difference now and I stand out more. I'm more memorable. And I have, you know, as far as these things go, coped quite well with it. So there's a really relatable story there that it doesn't matter, you know, what career sector you're in or whatever, people can get that where, you know, life's thrown you lemons, and I make myself mohawks and throw parties to celebrate being bald.
So inspiring, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just me being me, you know, and I think that's it. You know, the more I'm me, the better it is.
Goodness, is there anything else that you'd love to share that you haven't?
I suppose it is, you know, we hear it all the time. It's a very Instagrammable thing about leaning into failure. You know, you will make mistakes, you will try stuff. If you want to run a coaching business specifically and you're trying to find clients, you know, like the very first course I created 5 years ago, and I'm retiring it because I'm moving to a new platform, but it's getting retired because, you know, the actual course itself is brilliant. but I called it Carpe Diem, which is a stupid name for a course. It does not explain what it is. I had far too many beta testers who all said it was wonderful, and then people didn't buy it. And some people did, but it didn't sell in the way that I was hoping for. That whole sense of if you build it, they will come is nonsense in this world. There are a lot of people trying to make money out of coaches, a lot of people trying to make money as coaches and seeing it as a bit of a golden ticket to a different life. And no, it's going to be really, really hard work. But if you're suited to it, if you're suited to that self-employed life, you like being a bit of a pirate, the payoffs are enormous.
Amazing advice. Sarah, where can they find you and your work?
So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, just Sarah Longfield on LinkedIn. I think there's a few of us, but I think I'm the only one in the UK, and I'm the only one with no hair. So you can easily find me. And then on Instagram, I'm sarah.longfield. And I've got various freebies on my website that might be useful to folk, that are around planning. Like I've got a little weekly planner that you can print out and fold up, little mini zine. So that's saralongfield.co.uk, and you can go and have a rummage at all the free stuff as well.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We'll link everything in the description.
Fab. Thank you. It's been lovely talking to you, Adi.
Thank you, Sarah.